Hi, I'm Tim of Watchbox at Dubai Watch Week 2019, and I am here with the CEO of a brand that only makes Grail watches, CEO of de Bethune, Pierre Jacques. Welcome to the show, Pierre.
Hi, Tim. Thanks inviting me, or I would say inviting us.
Absolutely, and let's just break out who us is. De Bethune, founded in 2002, is a young brand, but it's more or less the singular vision of one man, Denis Flageolet. He's the engineer, he's the designer, he's the guiding vision, and he's really a bit of a mad scientist in the watchmaking realm. How would you describe Denis' impact on the look of the watches and the technology of the watches?
So, as you told, Denis himself almost a one-man show. He created the watch, he designed the watch, but also he's the one in charge of the conceptualization of the technique, the engineering. So his background, you know, if he have a background of restoration for ancient clock, so he did a lot of restoration from years. He's also an engineer, so his background is engineering, and he came in watchmaking because in his family it was a tradition. His grandfather was watchmaker, grandfather watchmaker, father too. So he really, into it since ever.
Now, the watches that the company makes, they run the entire spectrum of styles, from watches that could almost be considered dress watches to sports watches. You have the new LED-powered DB28 GS Blue. It's a dive style watch. I'm not going to call it a dive watch, but it's a dive style watch. And then you have a range of watches that are almost impossible to describe in any conventional classification, like the Dream watches, like the Meteorite dials. They're almost spaceships for your wrist. What is the philosophy that guides the style of de Bethune watches? Because it's unlike anything else in the business.
We don't really have a guideline. I think in a creative process, we just feel it's an instinct, and it's also, you know, when you create something, you create something have a sense. And for de Bethune, we was always, I would say, inspired and linked to the sky, because or to the cosmos. Is something that was inspiring, the humanity since 100,000 years. And since the beginning, to the relation with the time was linked to the sky. He was looking at the star, he was looking at the sun, and then when we create a dial, you can feel, and a watch also, but this cosmic inspiration.
Now, I know Denis, being a scientist, an engineer, a restoration veteran, and now the latest in several generations of watchmakers in his family, he has an instinct to just push for pure research and development, a kind of basic science development that you rarely see at such a small company. You're making about 150 watches a year. How does that push-pull work between Denis and you, trying to strike a balance between pushing research and development to the max and focusing on reaching out to clients in the business case? How do you manage that tension, that balance?
I think there is no way to balance. In that case, we have to follow the wish of the creator, of the engineer. Even if sometimes economically is not very, let's say, safe, but the motivation in the creation is to let him free, because if not, you kill the brand, you kill the creativity. And it's true that the idea behind de Bethune, it's not to making things that was already created by the others. If we make a watch, if we create something, we want to push a little bit forward the innovation. If we design a new balance wheel, it's not to say that we are making our own balance wheel. We want to make it more performant, more accurate, more light, more fast. The same if we design a case, if we develop this floating lock, it's not only a question of design. It's because it brings something to the watch. It's much more comfortable. You can wear your watch, you can move your wrist, and you can also have the right tension anytime. It's not too loose, not too wide. It's just a perfect tension. So every details in the Bethune is made to add something, to bring something.
Now, I understand you, I understand Denny, and very distinctive personalities with strong opinions about watches and the watch community and the watch industry. But what is the typical de Bethune customer like? I've always wondered, what is your customer profile like? Are they all extroverts? Are they engineers? Are they astronauts? Is there a typical de Bethune client, or could you tell me about a couple of different client types that you have for these watches?
I don't think that there is a specific client. They could be astronaut, they could be extroverted, they could be very low profile. But I think what link all our customers together is there are people that they have their own taste. They don't need to have something to show off. So it means that they really appreciate the Bethune for the beauty of the watch. They're quite self-confident. Of course, they have to be a little bit wealthy. It will be a lie to say the opposite. But what they have, they don't need to have any logo printed on the dial. They buy the Bethune because they recognize the artwork behind the work behind this object.
And it's a good point you make, that the watches really speak for themselves, as even when you put your name on the dial, it's so small and discreet that the style speaks for itself, the craftsmanship speaks for itself, the technology does. There are some watches for which it's almost impossible to determine who made it if you don't know de Bethune. So it's funny you say that they're not all extroverts, because I love the brand and I'm drawn to the products, and I put the watches on my wrist, I feel great. I love the way they feel, I love the way they work, but I don't think of myself as that extroverted guy with the Monaco yacht watch, to I guess coin a phrase. So it's interesting you say there is a broad range of clientele. So how do you reach them? Today, almost no one advertises on billboards and magazines anymore, and small watch brands don't advertise on TV. So how do you reach this broad range of tastes that collect independents and de Bethune specifically? How do you find them?
There is few channels. Actually, here is one of the main channel we can reach our future clientele or actual collectors. But there are many channels. You have Instagram, social network. We work very closely with our partner retailer around the world. So we organize private dinner presenting, our new collection. Sometimes introducing Denis to the final customer. Not that often, because as we were speaking, he preferred to be discreet and to work conscientiously in his workshop. But there is many different channels, and also we organize sometimes a factory tour, factory visit, and when passionate really came into the de Bethune's world in Oswego, in La Chaux, near Sainte Croix, they really, it's an experience, it's a real journey for them.
And what I love about the watches is that you can tell where the money was spent. There are some brands that are just a mountain of hype, and you wind up getting an assembly of parts from suppliers, and these expressions like a racing machine for the wrist or a lifestyle for your arm. These terms are thrown around, and at the end of the day, you're just getting an assembly of purchased parts. When you buy a de Bethune watch, or you just look at one, you could see that you've been through 6 balance wheels since 2006. You could have made do with one, or just purchased the part. You have your own silicon escape wheel. You have your own patents on bluing titanium and creating yellow titanium, spherical moon phase displays, a high beat tourbillon. So you can really tell where the investment goes. Would you say that one thing tying your customers together is an appreciation for pure engineering? And I guess you might also say the fusion of engineering and art?
You was just mentioned a few tagline of other brand. We also have a tagline that's quite different. The Bethune is watchmaking art in 21st century. In these 3 sentences, you can understand all the philosophy of the Bethune. what we are making is an art, is a watchmaking art. And in the 21st century, because what we want is to mix the innovation, the new technique, the new material, and the new way of thinking into an art who started its development a couple of 100 years ago. So watchmaking art in 21st century. This is the Bethune.
So in other words, racing machine for the wrist meet the spaceship for the wrist.
Almost. And what also I want to add, this is watchmaking art, and we are not creating any toys for boys. It's the opposite approach. The Bethune is not toy for boys. This is just watchmaking.
And what I love is that the closer you get to the watches, the more impressive they are. There are a lot of watches that are big and they're bold and they're boisterous, and then you get close and you realize it's just, well, frankly, it's just an assembled industrial product. There's no real craft art. Whereas when you get close to a DB28, you realize that you're going to be looking at black polish. You're going to be looking at Côte de Bethune, which is kind of a Côte de Genève. You're going to be looking at mirrored chamfers that are broad, glossy, gleaming. You're going to be looking at all sorts of satin finish and fire annealed components that have been cast a range of colors. And it is a handcrafted watch. It's not just a techie watch. It is built like, well, a watch in the finest Valet du Jeu or Geneva tradition. If you're to take the best heritage of finish in Switzerland, that's what you get when you get close to a de Bethune timepiece. So I'm wondering what portion of the production process is dedicated to finishing? It must be substantial.
So I see, is a huge of a part of what you are doing. I say every single components came through the atelier to be properly finished. The finishing is the most important part. Even there is no one part, one screw, even one invisible piece that is not finished to the perfection. We also for the quality control, there is no one component we are producing that is not double checked and passed to quality control. It's not 1 on 10 or 1 on 20. Each component, each spring, each screw are checked, finishing one by one. This is probably why our production is that limited. We produce 160 pieces a year worldwide. That's very limited. And it's probably also why you can really see the difference between the I will not say the competition. I don't like this word between
between
other
your peers.
Yeah, between our peers or between the Bethune. You can see that it's I will not say a leg difference. I don't want to be pretentious, but it's something different, very different.
And I think it's important to note, coming off the Grand Prix, you had a pre-selection in the dive class, and the Bethune has been multiply awarded, including the grand prize, the Aiguille d'Or, back in 2011 with the DB28. And now, maybe the most important new watch in brand history, the DB28 GS Blue, is launching. Could you talk a little bit about what this watch is and why it's so important to the company going forward?
So the DB28 GS Blue is I say a sport watch of the Bethune. It's not really the first sport watch we did. The second one we did in the past, the DB28 GS Grand Sport. But on that one, we want to go a little bit forward and really bring a sport function. So to have a sport which is one of the most common sport, maybe it's not diving, but at least it's swimming or lying on the beach next to the water. So now it's to have a watch you can really wear every day in every condition, and also you can can dedicate this watch to a sport as a diving watch. So this one we have the diving bezel, and what is really special to this watch is that we have a mechanical light. So we display the energy directly from the twin barrels from the watch to a turbine who actually have the Dynamo on this watch. You have 4 LED, and when I press at 6 o'clock, you can see that
So you have the mainspring barrels, which give a 5-day power reserve. You have a dynamo that
Yes.
energizes LED lights that actually backlight the bezel. So you can actually see through the clear portions of the bezel, almost like a relief impression of the indices and the numerals.
Okay.
So what I like about this watch, well, first of all, I've got a little personal attachment to it because I had the privilege of wearing the prototype for about a week, and it was an illuminating experience, pun intended. But I really think that it's impressive because it's not just another dive watch, and there is no other category that's more hackneyed or cliched, and this doesn't look like any Blancpain, it doesn't look like any Omega or any Rolex diver. So how do you approach a form like this, a swimmable sports watch with a rotating bezel? We won't call it a dive watch. How do you bring in a collaborator like Black Badger, because I feel like that hasn't been played up much. How do you put all the pieces together? De Bethune design, DNA, engineering, Black Badger, and the dive style. How does all that come together?
It's difficult to tell you. You know, if you look, each de Bethune is like the ancestor, or the proto of the next generation. It's like I always like to see this picture of the evolution of the human being from
the journey from the beginnings to man.
If you put side by side all the de Bethune from the DB1 and to the DBS, to the DB25, DB28, and all that collection, you really feel the evolution of the Bethune. The design, of course, is inspired from the previous DB28 GS, the Grand Sport we was launching in 2014, I think, or 15. Then we just came with a New Balance wheel. We came with we took the our hands from the previous DB22. So it's a combination of futuristic or new design, but also element that we took in our DNA. So how we came with that kind of design is, I don't know, is a question that you more have asked to Denis, because we don't have any design department or nothing. The creation is like, I seen an artist, as I was speaking about art, an artist, don't need any, it came from there. And I think this is the result of, the heritage of years and years and years of experience of Denis' background and aesthetic.
So now, it's interesting to see a lot of smaller brands today are establishing, I guess, factory stores and boutiques. And it's interesting because previously only very, very large brands would do so. And it seems you work more through your distributors to reach clients. Could you talk a little bit about the value of local relationships in reaching out to clientele, and why you've chosen to go with independent distributors rather than factory stores? Because that seems to be one of the trends of our time, the factory boutique. Why have you gone a different direction?
But I think everyone have to be good and right in what he's doing. I think watchmaker or independent watchmaker, we have to make watch, to produce them. Of course, try to find the right channel to sell them. But the most professional staff and people to sell the watch, they are usually the few professional retailer that and we don't want to take their space. They know how to reach their clientele, how to do their job, and to provide a good service. And during that time, we are focusing to developing our new product, new development, new movement, new technique. So everyone have his job. My job at De Bethune is to travel, to preach the Denis' words, and of course to sell a little bit. But our job is not to have our factory boutique.
No, that's refreshing. The watch brand will build the best watch, and retail partners will distribute the watch to clients.
I think it's the right way to do it.
So let me ask you about one watch we've got here it's not a UAE edition, it's not an Emirates or Middle East edition, but it is uniquely suitable. The yellow tones, remarkably unusual in that most people think it is a gold watch, but it's actually a fire annealed titanium that is a gold tone. So how did this watch come about? What was the thought process? I know there's been a little bit of a nod to Islamic custom in the wearing of gold. This watch seems most suited to Dubai Watch Week for that reason. Could you talk a little bit about this watch and why it's sort of misunderstood?
So the yellow tone is so the case in high polished titanium, oxidized. It's a thermical oxidation, bring the titanium to this yellow colors or yellow tones. You say yellow tone because you have different shade of yellow. All the components are not exactly the same color. You have a few different patina or regarding the condition of the light, if you are outside, inside, natural light, artificial light, you always have a different vibration. It's why we speak about tone. As I explained you, the titanium, when you oxidize titanium by thermical process, it's like the exhaust of the pipe of your motorbike, or the pipe of the exhaust of your car. You can see this spectra, like a rainbow color, go from the yellow to green, to purple, to blue, even a little bit to red. So it's all the color that you can get heating this metal. So it's a natural process. So it means it's not a PVD or DLC or surface treatment. The treatment is really by oxidation. So the material is oxidized till a few angstrom. I will not say that it's not that deep. If you make a big scratch, but it will be a big scratch, and maybe. But
speaking of which, I just want to emphasize, you've been able in the past to restore the blue oxidized coating of the kind of blue. Are you able to restore if, for example, a client scratches the yellow titanium?
We say it depends the deep of the scratch. Yes, but anyway, we have to repolish everything and to return. But this watch almost I wear it every day. You can see that you don't see any scratch, or very. The color is not disappear. It's not. So it means PVD after DLC after 2-3 months it start to become white. You can here it really stay stable.
Thank you so much. This has been a hell of a good time with one of my favorite brands, one of my favorite fellows.
Thank you, Tim.
Pierre
It was a
Jacques,
pleasure.
thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much to you.
Dubai Watch Week 2019 here with Bethune and CEO Pierre Jacques. Check them out online. Check out the new DB28 GS Blue with its LED lighting system. Time out, Tim out. Pierre out. And thanks for logging on.